What's going on, YouTube? So the time has finally come to review our Tesla Model 3. For those of you who don't follow our channel, we purchased this Model 3 standard range about a month ago. And while this may be a little bit of a longer video because of how advanced this car is and that we might get a little overexcited, this will mostly just be a classic full review. So with that all said, let's go ahead and sample the car of the future. So like always, we'll go ahead and get started with the exterior styling, which, as you can see, doesn't really look much like most other vehicles, period, or especially in this class. Now, normally I would say something about how large the grille is or something like that. There is no grille. There is no need, obviously, for an electric vehicle, and the fake grille that Tesla used to put on like the Model S, they no longer do that. So you basically just have kind of a blank plastic, and then it kind of aerodynamically goes up onto the hood. Now, as far as your headlights, these are fully LED across all the models, even the standard range, as you can see, and it has a very nice and premium looking arrangement. Now down here at your wheels, this is the standard 18-inch alloy wheel. Now notice I said alloy, even though this itself is a hubcap. You can actually pull this off, and when you pull this off, there is a nice looking dark gray alloy wheel underneath. So it kind of gives owners of this model the ability to choose which one you want. Right now we've just left it at the hubcaps because that will maximize your range. Now for those of you who want something, say, a little bit larger, you do have the option to get a 19-inch alloy wheel for $1,500. Now coming on up here to your mirrors, it is very nice that Tesla gives you the fully loaded mirror even on the $35,000 model. So that means you've got the power folding, as you can see. You also have heating and auto dimming abilities.
Alright, and checking out the rear design of the Model 3, you are going to have a very wide looking rear. And as far as the differences between the standard model and the performance, you aren't really going to find too many. The performance will throw in a carbon fiber spoiler if you are interested in that. But pretty much everything's going to be the same back here for all of the Model 3s. So you have these signature full LED taillights. Even your reverse light as well as your brake light is fully LED, so that really makes a premium look. And of course, you are not going to get any exhaust pipes. This is a Model 3 after all. And you probably didn't even notice, but integrated on this left taillight right here is your charge port. So you just push the bottom corner here and it will pop right open and allow you to charge your Model 3. Now here at your safety systems is where you're going to find the big difference for the standard range Model 3 that we went for. Now you are going to sacrifice the autopilot system with the standard range model, but honestly that's really not as much as you would think. So our Model 3 comes standard with forward collision warning with automatic emergency braking, active lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, and also a unique feature called obstacle aware acceleration. But anyway, guys, that sums up all of the really cool exterior features of this Model 3. So now let's go ahead and hop inside and see what's really cool in there.
So like just about everything to do with this Model 3, getting inside of it is different than your normal cars. So what you see me holding up in front of the camera here is the Tesla key. It's basically, as you can see, just a NFC credit card looking thing here. You can keep it in your wallet or whatnot. You also have the option to set up your phone as key, so it works through the Bluetooth. You can just walk up to the vehicle and it will let you straight in. Now since I've got this already out, I'll go ahead and demonstrate this for the sake of demonstrating it, but like I said, this is kind of more of a backup, but you'll just kind of set it right there underneath of the camera, and as you can see, it will unlock, the mirrors will fold out, and then to get inside the vehicle here, you're going to press on the fat part and it will pop out this, and you'll just grab it. Now, of course, taking a look inside the Model 3, it is absolutely nothing like your average car interior. As you probably heard, it's very minimalistic. Now on the Model 3, there are two different color options. It's just black, or a $1,000 option will get you white leatherette. It's kind of a vegan leatherette, so you don't ever have real leather. And then the other thing to point out is just that you have the wood trim if you go for the black option, or you have kind of a white plastic trim if you go for the white option. Now looking over here at your door trim, it is very nicely appointed. All the models are going to have leather that goes all through here, and it is nicely stitched. On the black models, you do have Alcantara that runs through here as well, and the top part is soft touch. Some of the only buttons you have in the entire vehicle are your 4 window switches right here. All 4 are fully automatic, and then you have this button here which electrically releases the door handle. Then coming down to our seats here, these are 12-way power adjusting with 4-way lumbar support. And then like I already said, this is a leatherette. It feels pretty realistic. It's not the most realistic I've ever felt, but it also is extremely soft and comfortable. Now, one of the things you're probably particularly interested in knowing about is the material quality and the craftsmanship of this cabin, because you probably heard a lot about, how Tesla has had some issues in this area. But I want to say that this particular example is basically flawless. You have really nice material. So across your upper dash here, like most luxury vehicles, you have a soft touch plastic. Dropping down to the middle, it goes across the entire ways. You have this really nice wood. It is real, and it is the open pore style, so it actually looks and feels very nice. Going down lower, we have a leatherette material that goes all through here, nicely padded. And then all the center area, this is covered in piano black, so when you put that down, you have this one flat piano black surface. As far as panel gaps or anything, basically there are none, so this is definitely a very, very high quality cabin. Now, one really fascinating thing that you may have heard is that you actually don't start this car. There's no start button anywhere inside the vehicle. Basically, when you get in, it kind of goes into an accessory mode, and then it doesn't turn on as far as driving ability until you put it in drive. Now, obviously, I've got no gauges to talk about because you basically just have this left side of the screen that serves as your gauges. So, like you can see, you've got your status for your drive, park, neutral, reverse, and your headlights, as well as your battery status. You can change that from percent or miles. We have all of our controls here for different things to open up. This is where your window wiper controls are. They are rain sensing across all the models. Now coming back to your steering wheel, of course you have electric power assisted steering, and you have a nice leather wrap steering wheel. Like everything in the cabin, it is super simple. So all you've got here is just 2 rollers, and that serves for basically all the main functions of the car. This one here is primarily for your audio, so you can turn up and down and skip your tracks. However, when you're adjusting things, such as, for example, your steering wheel, and then as you can see now, that transforms into how I power adjust the steering wheel. So it is power tilt and telescoping, both in and out. So that's definitely very nice, especially since this is the $35,000 model, so these are a lot of features that are pretty unexpected for $35,000 in the luxury class. And then you have your controls here for the shifter. So for drive, you just press down, we bump up. For reverse, so this is exactly the same as Mercedes, for example. And as you can see, you do have active trajectory, a really big and really, really vivid backup camera. However, one thing I am surprised about is it's not 360 degrees on any Tesla Model 3, which is a little bit interesting since there's a ton of cameras all around the vehicle. When you're in reverse, you will notice that both of the mirrors tilt down. You can set that, of course, to your preference. And then for park, you're just going to press the end of that stalk. This stalk does also serve as the activation for your cruise control. You either have regular cruise control or you have the adaptive cruise control that comes in the autopilot package. And you just bump it down when you're in drive. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about storage. This is one area where basically the Model 3 leaves traditional rivals in the dust. So we'll start out with our center console here. As you can see, you got a nice little bin here. It is felt lined. You can take it out, and it goes down quite a bit deeper. It goes back a little bit. You do have illumination inside and a 12-volt outlet. Now that's not too unusual, but when you move up front here, this is where things start to really show off how not having a drive tunnel really impacts storage. So we open this up, you have a nice little area to stick your phone. Open this up, and then you can pull this up further, and as you can see, we now have an absolutely massive center console here. And you do also have 2 USB ports as well. Alright, so now basically we are up here at this display. Obviously, as you can tell, the vast majority of every feature in this car is going to be located in this display. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of the stuff as best I can to cover, where the important features are. So one thing I can start with here is our climate controls. It is dual zone automatic climate control, so you can adjust your temperature like so. You also have 3-stage seat heating for both the driver and the passenger. That's standard, even on this standard range model. And you just push that button right there, and that will pop up your controls. So you have your fan speeds right there, and you have your zones right along the side. Of course, you can put it on automatic, but the really, really cool thing is how you adjust the vents. There is no car in the world that adjusts the vents this way. So as you can see, it just runs across there. So there's no way you can physically control it. So what you do is you take your finger and you just swipe up and down, and then you can pinch in and out to control the flow. And that goes for both the driver and the passenger. Okay, so now, as you can see right in front of you, a big central feature of this is a huge navigation system. This is standard equipment. However, starting, I believe, at the first of the year, you're going to have to start paying for premium connectivity if you want to have the satellite maps. But as far as just having the satellite maps for now, or if you want to pay that subscription, as you can see, it is absolutely beautiful. This is definitely the best quality map display in any vehicle outside of Audi. Okay, so what we'll do now is take a little bit of a look around our car displays. As you can see, this is kind of some basic stuff. Most things are done automatically, so you don't really have to get in here and control things. You also have charging. This will allow you to set a limit. Tesla recommends that you charge to 90% instead of 100%. But you can set it to 100% if you have a trip or something big that you need to get every amount of range out of it. Supercharging, it will just tell you the price of your latest supercharge right there, and then you can set the current of your charge right there and schedule when you want it to charge. Now obviously this is not available while you're driving, so don't get any ideas and try anything. But you can use a browser, since this is basically a computer. So, one of the cool things that we have done while we were supercharging is simply go onto our YouTube channel and watch a video that we made. So it's, just really cool and very fun type of deal to do that. We also have entertainment, so you've got different things available to you. You've got all these games that you can play, really neat stuff. Including one of my favorite one, which is this one here, where you're actually driving little Teslas and you control everything actually with the real steering wheel and the real brake pedal. But yeah, that's really crazy, and definitely much appreciated that they're doing things to keep you occupied while you are supercharging. And then last but not least, we kind of have a toy box here. This has got some of the little fun, silly things in the Model 3 that you can do, like make your seat make fart noises and things like that. Alright, so I'm pretty much out of breath here with this display. I mean, there's just so much stuff here. So I'm going to go ahead and move past that. There's not much else to talk about with the interior. Basically, you do have a auto-dimming interior mirror. The outside mirrors are also auto-dimming. Up top here, we have some LED lights. You also have your hazards, which are right there. And then you have really one of the coolest features of the cabin. It's basically that the entire roof, besides for this little area right there in the middle, is all glass. So it goes straight from the back windshield all into a panoramic moonroof. So this is definitely a really, really nice feature for the class. It is standard equipment, even at $35,000. But do be aware that none of this opens up. Alright, so that is all for this incredibly futuristic and really cool cabin. Now we'll go ahead and hand it off to Mason, who will check out the back areas.
Alright, so hopping back here to the rear seats of the Tesla Model 3, you're going to find a very unique rear seat. This is unlike anything in the class, which is pretty much to be expected since this car is completely crazy. But heading back to, its actual feature set, Tesla does actually equip this as a very nice rear seat, which I was very surprised by, especially with this standard range model, because here in the center you do have rear vents that are standard across all of the models, as well as dual charging USB ports, which is a nice touch. Now, another thing to mention is that the long range and performance model do come standard with heated rear seats, and that is for all three seats back here. It's not just for these two seats, it's also for this middle one. And as far as the leg room is concerned, I do want to discuss this. It comes in at 35.2 inches of rear leg room and 37.7 inches of rear headroom, which actually does place it as at the higher end of the class. That's ahead of the BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class, on par with the Audi A4. So behind rear seating position, I have about, I would say, 5 to 6 inches of rear leg room, and my feet definitely don't have any issues sliding up under the seat. And another little unique feature that this Model 3 has is that this middle seat, if you scoot over, you actually don't have, the center console doesn't go straight down, so you have room for this middle seat for your feet. And walking up to the Model 3's trunk, all you have to do to open it is locate the little button under the lid. It does open right up. And once inside, you are going to find 15 cubic feet of space, which is worth noting. That's ahead of most of the rivals. It is still a little bit behind the BMW 3 Series, but it's ahead of most in this class. Now, in addition to that, you can also fold the seat 60-40 split if you need that. And up underneath of the floor here, Tesla actually has given you a absolutely massive amount of space, especially for a sedan of this size. It's definitely a great place to put your charger. We have an umbrella. A lot of stuff can fit up under there. And it doesn't stop there because we actually do also have space up at the front. All right, and of course you don't actually have an engine in the Model 3, so this space is actually available for cargo. And in order to open it, you just locate the little button on the app, or you can open it through the inside. So we'll just go ahead and open it now. And looking inside of here, we don't have an exact measurement, but it's definitely enough for a couple weekend bags or anything like that. And keep in mind that is in addition to what's already back there in the trunk, which is larger than most of the class. So another thing that doesn't change for the standard range model is that you do still have the 12-way power adjusting passenger seat with 4-way lumbar support. That's a really nice feature for a $35,000 car. And as far as the glove box is concerned, this is a little interesting. You don't have a handle here, so you actually have to go to the screen and then open it through the screen, or you can also use the voice commands. And once inside, I will say that this is pretty small. You're not going to be able to fit a ton of stuff in here, but it is really, really nicely felt lined and also dampened. Well guys, I'm sure you've seen by now just how untraditional this Model 3 is when it comes to pretty much everything, and that definitely continues in its driving dynamics. So now let's go ahead and take it out on the road and show you all of those cool stuff under there. I can't say it. It doesn't come out. and I'm really excited to take it out on the road. So now let's go ahead and take it out and see what it's like.
And that right there, that is one thing that does not get old as time passes. Just having that instantaneous power and that instantaneous torque, it just makes this feel so fast. You just absolutely leave everybody else in the dust.
Yeah, you see them and then you're gone. Oh my gosh.
And this is the weirdest thing about it. Like, this isn't the powerful one. This isn't the performance version. This is the regular model, but the instantaneous torque makes this feel a lot faster than it even is. Tesla claims 5.3 seconds 0 to 60 for the standard range, and as well as the standard range plus model. But you know, we have experience driving things that are more powerful than this and have faster 0 to 60s, but the instantaneous torque makes this feel more like, let's say, more like an Audi S4 competitor than an Audi A4 competitor.
Yeah, that is very much true. Over the course that we've owned it, I've had quite a few people in here, and when I accelerate, they all giggle like it's insane. Like a normal car does not do that for anybody, but when they get in this and you take that first acceleration, they're just like, holy crap. And it really still has that feel for me, even though we've driven this car well over 1,000 miles at this point. And a few things worth considering here is that, you know, this is not the only Model 3 available. You do have different options. So this, like you mentioned, is standard range rear wheel drive, 5.3 seconds 0 to 60. But if you want something faster, as well as if you want all-wheel drive, you're going to have to go for the long range or the performance model. The long range has 322 miles of range, and that has a 4.4 second 0 to 60, so that is a very fast 0 to 60 as well. And then you have the performance with 310 miles of range, and that has an absolutely insane 3.2 second 0 to 60, which is honestly...
And that's before Tesla sends out updates. They send out
Yeah.
updates. They just did one recently. It was a paid update, but you could pay to make your car, I think, 0.2 seconds faster, 0 to 60 or something, which is mind-boggling that that's where we're at now, that we can just get a remote software update. Now, usually we spend a substantial amount of the video going over cylinders and speeds and all types of things. Really, you don't have those things to talk about. You have a new set of information. So, kind of circling back to the range of this standard model as well as the standard range plus, what you're looking at is 250 miles of range for the standard range plus, and then when you get the standard range, they software limit it down 30 miles to 220 as your maximum range. So that's probably your most important number, that 0 to 60 number, and the range number. That's what you'll care about when it comes to an electric car versus, like I said, you know, you don't have any cylinders, there is no transmission, it's just
direct drive.
Direct drive, so that, you know, not continuously variable or anything like that, just it is.
And of course, I would assume most of you have not ever owned an electric vehicle, and if you're watching this video, it's probably going to be your first Tesla, since this is kind of a new thing. And one of the first things that you're going to notice coming from a regular car is that there is no engine noise. There is absolutely no noise really at all. When you accelerate, it's just like nothing. You hear a tiny, I will say you hear a
There's
little...
the smallest little whine sound to it.
When you really like push it all the way down, you hear like a yee, like kind of, I don't know. But other than that, there's really no noise. And then the regen does have a tiny little noise as well, but pretty much nothing.
Right, and there's no additional sound effects. That's worth noting because a lot of driven a few other electric cars, and they add kind of a sound effect like the e-tron. Sounds a little bit like a spaceship. It's just a speaker sound effect. But there's none of that going on here.
Now, another thing I do want to discuss is the ride quality. Honestly, so with this Model 3, I didn't really know exactly what to expect because a lot in this class can go either too sporty or too soft. But I'm happy to report that the Model 3 seems to have a pretty good balance between those.
Yeah, to me it feels like, okay, for maximum efficiency, like most electric cars, the tires are inflated. Hey, another Tesla Model 3.
They waved at you?
You're part of that nice Tesla community. You wave at each other. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying, was the tires are inflated to a very high PSI, so that's obviously detrimental to the ride. But the suspension is soft enough that it kind of makes up for it. So now that we're out on a nice twisty road here, be a good time to talk about the steering and kind of the ride and handling mixture. This is another area I'm definitely very impressed with. You know, like Mason was saying, a lot of things you kind of don't really know how it's going to be until you get behind the wheel. I was a little concerned that being an electric car might be more focused on efficiency and not have as good of a focus on dynamics, but that was an unfounded concern, because definitely when you get behind the wheel, this is really a great driving overall package. The biggest thing that I love about it is the low center of gravity and the 50-50 weight distribution, because of the large battery down way low across the whole car. It makes it feel like so planted, way more planted than anything else in the class that I've driven. It just feels like it's absolutely glued to the road. You really have no feeling of that it's rear drive, even though it is, because it just feels so incredibly stable. But as far as like the competitive set, once again, this is on the sportier end of things than some of the competition. The steering here is also extremely fast responding. It responds just a little off center. I mean, really, really fast. And I'm also just love how heavy that it is. It's actually quite heavy. You would think, you know, at least like in the standard setting, that it would maybe be a little lighter or whatever. No, it's actually quite heavy even for the class of vehicle. This is the only thing that was comparable to this that I've driven is the BMW 3 Series. So you're looking at that type of steering a lot more so than like well, just a couple of days ago we drove the Audi A4, much lighter, very light steering. Now this doesn't really have to do with anything specifically, but this little graphic right here, I do like it when you're out on a two-lane road like this, because you can see if you're centered in your lane. You know, sometimes you kind of are guessing, basically. Yeah. You might find you're a little too far this way, a little too close to the center line, something like that. But with this, you actually can just kind of glance down there and check, see if you're riding, you know, too close one direction or too close the other direction.
And that does also serve as your blind spot monitoring, since it's not actually in the mirror. This is kind of where your blind spot is in this display. And if you put on your turn signal while someone's like in your blind spot, it will notify you and warn you. That's where we get the blind spot monitoring, since it's not actually in the mirror.
Mm-hmm. You can also try out the chill acceleration. I've never actually used that, because why would I want to go slower?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. I paid for this to go fast, so I'm going fast. Well, you know, it's really cool that you have all these settings, because I recognize people can buy this car for different reasons, you know. you can be someone who just really wants the maximal efficiency, and you know, you just want to go the maximum number of miles and stuff like that. Oh yeah, this does feel slow. Yeah.
Wait, is that? Oh my.
Well, I'm not going full throttle or anything, but you've got to. Yeah, way more casual.
No,
way more casual. Yeah.
Alrighty guys, I'm finally behind the wheel, so I'm going to play with it just a little bit longer and explain just a few different things that you might notice coming to a Tesla from, you know, just a traditional car. Some of the biggest things that we noticed when we first switched over. That right there is going to be one of them. You do have a brake hold function, so I don't know if Drew explained this or not, but we do have different settings, so it is dependent on the different person. So I have set mine to be on hold, so as soon as I come to a stop, it automatically engages the brake hold, so I never have to put my foot on the brake or anything like that, which is actually a quite nice feature to have. And then you release and have some fun. But you know, another one of the biggest features that I do want to really talk about is the regen braking. This is really a really weird thing that, you know, you'll drive like a complete idiot for the first couple of, you know, probably at least a day or two before you realize how to do it. I have the standard regen on, which means that when I let off of the gas here, it's almost like applying the brakes, and it basically allows for one pedal driving. So, you know, if this red light up here turns red, you know, I'm just able to just let off the gas instead of using the brake.
I prefer it on the lower end, so you can change from standard to low. That just reduces the effect. It's still there, but to me it feels roughly equivalent to just like engine and transmission braking in most gas-powered cars have some of that effect where it doesn't exactly coast. It kind of does pull back too, and it's similar to that. Also, if you choose to have the car in creep mode, where it moves forward, the brake hold won't automatically engage, but if you press down really firmly on the brake pedal, then it will engage. So that's something that they don't really explain that very well. It seems like you have to choose between them. You don't.
Alright, and as with any full review, we do need to discuss the pricing here at the end. So as you probably heard throughout the review, this particular model is the very basic standard range model, which starts at $35,000. That is Tesla's big call. You know, back in the day they said they're going to make a $35,000 Tesla. Well, this is it. So this is the very base standard range model. Now, the cheapest one you can build on the website is the Standard Range Plus. That's going to start at $39,900. Then you have the Long Range. That's going to be $48,990. And then finally you have the top-end model, which is the Performance. That's $56,990. Now, something worth considering is that now after December of 2019, you do not have any federal tax credit to go for the Model 3. We actually looked up and got a 2020 Model 3 with the tax credit because we took delivery of it very close to the end of the year, so we kind of got the best of both worlds. So we do actually have an $1,875 tax credit on this model, but keep in mind that you are not going to get that on any Tesla model right now. Now, there are a few different options that you can go for. We went with completely the most basic thing, even the most basic paint. So we just have the $35,000 starting price with a destination charge of $1,200. That's going to be on all of the models. So this total as equipped is $36,200, which I definitely have to say for that $36,200 price, you're really not sacrificing much of anything over like a fully loaded like $60,000 Performance. I mean, you can definitely feel that in this cabin. It really feels very upscale.
And compared to the rivals.
Exactly.
The value in here is frankly insane. $35,000 doesn't even get you a base model of most of the German competition, and they come notoriously stripped down with nearly nothing, where this is basically a fully loaded cabin, more or less, with just a handful of small things removed.
Well guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this in-depth look at our personal 2020 Tesla Model 3 standard range. We really appreciate you watching this video, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you want to see more Tesla videos or our signature car reviews, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.